Welcome to Courtsiders. I'm your host, Eric. With me, I have a special guest, Nets reporter Matt Brooks. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm excited to we're really in like the final stretch here. We got a couple of hours of freedom, if you want to call it that, before we really get
Yeah,
into the full season. I'm so excited though, man. I'm ready for this. I've been waiting for it.
you can read all of his work on Nets Daily, and you can check out his breakdowns on YouTube. And also, you have a new podcast called The Clear Out, correct?
I do. I do.
Wire.
Yeah. It's moving. It's been good. It's been a good thing. So excited to see where that goes this year, but even more excited to talk Nets with you today.
Of course, and hopefully you're not editing the podcast like I am, because that is excruciating and painful. You know?
No, I am. Understand. I got, I'm putting my producer chops on, I'm doing everything here. I'm running the whole operation. So
Running the gambit, yeah, it's a lot of
yeah,
work, but it's worth it. I mean, honestly, it teaches you a lot of, I guess, abilities that you could use for anything. Honestly, videos, audio, podcasting, whatever. So let's hop right into it. There's actually been news from Nets World today that David Duke Jr. has agreed to a two-way contract for the Brooklyn Nets, right?
yeah. Yeah, it's exciting. I wasn't surprised. I'll put it that way. It seems like that's been pretty much in the works since he signed, really, or whatever, got a camp deal. So they've just been on like really high on him for a minute. Like internally, they've been super high and like what they've seen. Summer League reinforced that. Preseason, I think they've seen enough. And he's a really intriguing player. I think he's your typical point of attack defender. The stuff that he can do off the dribble is gonna be what takes him to the next level of being a little bit more than a role player. But they've just been really high on him. Honestly, it's the best way to put it. I was not surprised about what happened today.
He was easily one of the most distinguishable players in Summer League. It was David Duke, I think Carson, not Carson Edwards, the
Kessler,
play Kessler Edwards from Pepperdine, and Cam Thomas, and Dayron
yeah.
Sharp as well.
I believe it or not, I honestly really thought, like, if other than Cam Thomas, who put up like 1,000 points per game, I thought David Duke long term.
Yeah, and actually, it was really interesting because he went undrafted. And
Yep.
at Providence, he actually did a lot of good things there. So I was kind of
Yep.
surprised that he didn't go drafted at late rounds, 40s, 50s.
Well, he's interesting because he's a guy that like did not finish well from 2-point range at all at Providence. And I felt like the thing, like even in preseason, what we got was like, this guy's got like a pretty sweet layup package. Like he's got everything in terms of like when he gets downhill, it isn't just going to be one finish. Like who's a good example? I hate to just pile on Torian Prince, but I just watched him like a day ago, rewatching the Nets Timberwolves preseason game. That's a really good example of like when he gets to the rim, he has one finish and that's about it. And it's like a double pump or just a straight up layup with his offhand. Like David Duke's got a little extra. So I think just getting guys like that they're going to play a role, but they're a little funky. They're going to bring a little extra. That's something that the Nets are always looking for.
Torian Prince has always been stiff, dude. He's always been stiff,
Oh,
and
that
so
guy
stiff, man.
hates. I have never, the only person that dislikes taking contact less is like pre All-Star D'Angelo Russell. Like that's the only person I can think of.
Also, maybe, yeah, Landry Shamet, even though he finished at the rim, effectively, I think he only
Yeah.
had like this under scoop layup that he
Yeah.
always did.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, like I think with David Duke Jr., his size is really intriguing. Also,
Yeah.
he's not scared of the moment. I think in summer league, it kind of proved that because when he came in, you can automatically tell that he had some composure. And summer league, it's all over the place. Like
Yeah. It's a mess.
it's like a circus. Yeah, it's just. But there's some players that you can tell like, oh, this player is young, but he's composed. Like David Duke Jr., Edwards, and Cam Thomas. Sharp. Sometimes he's a little bit loose. He's a little loose with the ball sometimes, but he is such a good rebounder. It's amazing. He has
Yeah. Sharp's fun too because I don't even feel like we saw it in Summer League because Summer League is just like exclusively for guards. Like really, there's no reason to be. I would, if I was 7 feet tall, I would be like, can I elect out of summer league? I'm good. I don't need to show up for this. But Sharp is fun because he's got this ability to kind of handle a little bit and like create. I don't know about create for himself, but at least do things that are not ordinary of somebody that's going to be, you know, a prototypical rebounder in this league.
How big is he in person?
So how good? All right, let me think about it. I gotta. So honestly, this is such a fun question because I've done like we've seen all their measurements online and everything like that in the park rankings. Blake Griffin, way taller than I thought. For some reason, you know, I don't know. I don't know if you can relate to this, but when you watch net games, Blake Griffin looks super small because he's playing center. He's pretty big. Like, turns out he's actually like a full 6'9", 6'10". Dayron looks smaller. I know he's listed at like he's a 6'9", 6'10" also. For whatever reason, he's big, like brawny, but he looks smaller, like a little bit shorter than Blake. And I'm sure they measure out the same way, but certain people just, they look different in terms of when you're looking at them like straight on. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a I don't know. It's a very odd thing to see in person.
It's also body type, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes
but he's filled out. He's filled out. Like Dayron is like filled out. So maybe that's his problem, is that he's so filled out that you kind of don't realize like how big he is also as like a big man. But yeah, he's got an insane body in terms of like being his age and being that NBA ready to just body dudes in the paint. You can't teach it, man.
Yeah, especially people with wider shoulders, players, they could create more space, especially when you're bumping in the paint. So you have a little bit more distance between player and the ball, right? Also, like Nicholas Clarkson, I think a lot of people are always like Nicholas Clarkson needs to gain weight, but he's already, he's a lanky dude, so I guess the weight just distributes differently. He gained weight this year, right?
Yeah, he did. I also think that's such like an outdated way of looking at basketball in a way. Like, it matters, obviously. You want your centers to add weight. It's going to matter at some point. But Clax is like, when he's out there, they perform at a defense that is like top of the league. Like there is some give or take at some point where you're putting on weight, but you are losing the skills that make you interesting, which for Claxton is that switchability. So I don't know. I don't worry too much about weight. I think that's like a big, I don't know. I feel like to a degree that is really a trait that we're looking for in big men that is a previous generation. And like, to be fair, it's like, who's really guarding Joel Embiid? Like, no one's guarding Joel Embiid. The game, it's been the exact same game plan for the last 3 years. It's like, throw doubles at him, hope that your doubles are good. And that's it. We're good. We're good from here.
There's only a couple people in the world that could one-on-one cover Joel Embiid, and I definitely understand, because Claxton's more like a modern forward. He's not really like a center anymore.
Yeah,
those positions are like,
It doesn't matter. And like for him, like with Claxton, sounds, oh cool, like you get to switch everything. But what that really means is that you're forcing the opposition into just isolating over and over and over. And if you're going to go into an isolation matchup with the Nets, I mean, call me crazy, but I'm going to pick Kevin Durant and James Harden every time. So
yeah, it's really interesting when guards try to pick on Nicholas Claxton and they realize that he can keep up with them.
Yeah.
And it's rare that a guard puts one over him. Rare.
Yeah.
Rare.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's kind of the nature of the game. I'm high, and he looked very good in the most recent preseason game. So
yeah, there was I wouldn't say like, I hate when people say like, oh, he wasn't trying hard enough. Like, I hate that, but his motor, it seemed to like his motor's like upgraded. Like when you put a new engine, like it seems like from the preseason games, like he just looked a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean I'll be the guy that was I was like, what's going on here after the first preseason game where it felt like he couldn't do like more than 2 sprints up and down the court, where it's like, what's like, this is your contract year, man. Like you got to be in like the best shape of your life. Like I know every NBA player says that when they get into training camp, but like Nicholas Claxton has to be in the best shape of his life right now. And he looked amazing in the most recent preseason game. Like in terms of the impact, I mean, we know what he does defensively, but offensively, he was involved. They ran a bunch of sets that I think definitely played to his strengths on offense, where it's really just set a screen, but slip out of that. Like get out of there as soon as you set it and be there for the lob, because that's where you see it from him. So yeah, man, he's a hell of a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like at Georgia, he was hitting threes. You know, he was hitting
Yep.
jumpers. He was running up and down the court like tremendously, and I think that's why it took someone like Nicholas Claxton because he has a lot of upside, right? And I think it was also sometimes when you're put into a system and your abilities aren't used, it's kind of like they stagnate, you know. So they it just
Yeah.
becomes one with someone else's, almost like Jared Allen as well. Because when Jared Allen came into NBA, I remember him at Texas. He was hitting like elbow jumpers when he came into NBA,
Yeah.
it was like deleted. It was almost like a folder, you know, it just got deleted. And
Yeah.
now it's coming back a little bit in Cleveland. You see a little bit more of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's tricky. Like Clax is also in a tough situation where it's like, we don't really have time for you to figure it out. Like, unfortunately, that's kind of the realistic situation of what he's in. And that's part of playing on a veteran team. Like, even I'm sure some of the veterans have things that they're like, wow, I really wish I could do this and do that, but I'm on this team. I'm trying to win a ring. So I'm not going to do that. And I think at that point, for Clax, that means we want you to switch a ton. We want you to be a rim runner and rebound when you can. If we're playing you with another big, crash the boards. If you're the other big, if you're in the dunker spot, crash the boards, do your thing from there. But it is tricky. You can tell, you actually could tell the second he had, I think it was probably one of his first like 3 games. He's like, wait till you see the rest of the bag. We're like, Clax, I don't know if you're going to get to do all of that. Like, we want to see the rest of the bag, but I don't know if it's going to happen for you this year.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in as a younger player, especially on a team like that. That's so, you know, it's stacked. It's a stacked team, and especially
He's,
last year in the playoffs, like he didn't really have a lot of time, even though he played in the regular season. You know,
yeah,
it's almost like he wasn't ready for that moment. So hopefully
he
this
looks
year.
ready this year. I mean, as somebody who has gone like up and down and all over the place with where Clax is this year, he looks ready. If the screening is real, and also like if Harden's healthy, because that was a big thing last year. It's like, man, like we kind of picked apart what Clax did throughout the playoffs, but man, like just not having Harden consistently is such a big factor for him. Like it is so unbelievably crucial to have a guy like that is going to simplify things, where pick and roll reads are, even if Clax, let's say he sets a screen, it's not a great screen and he doesn't pop out of it, like James Harden is going to create something for him. It's insane. And all he has to do is jump high. Like it's that easy. And he's such a good defender on the other end that, I mean, I think for me, like just watching him in the preseason, he's definitely gotten a little bit stronger to a degree where it's like, you're not going to like push Karl Towns off his spot, but at least you're not going to get like pushed underneath the basket. You know what I mean? And that matters. Like it's the smallest incremental part of growth for him that I think is all he needs right now to be a rotation player.
Yeah, and I think the injuries that happened to Kyrie and Harden they're kind of linked, right? Because if you have
Yeah.
Claxton out there with bigger players, the spacing's totally off. And if you have Harden and Kyrie, there's more space for him to roam. But if you
Yep.
have like Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, bigger dudes, like it's hard to put Claxton in there. You know, like it's really difficult for that.
I'm so just sorry. I know I'm on your podcast, but I'm asking you a question. What do you think of this team? Like, do you think that there are going to be spacing limitations at any point?
Honestly, this team reminds me of the Chicago Bulls when they were just stacking their team to kind of beat a specific team and that was like the
Yeah.
Detroit Pistons. And I
Oh,
think,
it's a deep cut. I like it.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's almost like they're all in the gym just working out. Like, dude, we gotta get
Yeah.
stronger, we gotta get faster, we gotta get wiser. We gotta do everything right because Milwaukee's a beast. Like they are
Yeah,
a
you
beast,
seen
dude.
Giannis hitting these jumpers now?
Pull-up jumpers, like,
Bruh.
what are you gonna do with that? Because all the defenses, you're concentrating on the drive in, and then if he's pulling
Yep.
up and he's just flanking them in, then that's gonna be a problem for people. That's gonna be a real big issue for people because it looks organic and like fluid. It's not
It's
clunky.
one motion.
Yeah,
It's insane.
yeah. I don't know how he did that. He went to Super Saiyan 2 now. He's like, oh man.
Everybody's freaking about this Kyrie thing. I'm like, hold on. Like, I get it. It's a big deal. Have you guys seen this Giannis shooting on the way up instead of on the way down? Like, he went from like a Westbrook, I hate throwing shots at people, but a Westbrook jumper to like it looks like a normal jump shot. I never thought it would happen with Giannis.
Yeah, yeah. His jump shot's like Joel Embiid's now, who
Yeah, it
has
looks
become like a
normal.
looks normal. It's not forced, but yeah, Russell Westbrook has a really stiff shot, dude.
It's weird. Because he jumps so high, and then I just feel like even now, I think he tried to adjust it a little bit, but I think he's just been doing it for like 10 years. This weird jumper where it's like you're jumping really high, and then you're shooting kind of on the way down, so you don't have any legs under you. So it's like your power is coming from your arms, which you know doesn't go great. Like,
The timing's all off on
it's weird.
Westbrook. Yeah, I think his best year was, I think it was like Oklahoma City, his
Probably
best
the
shooting
MVP
year.
year, right?
Yeah, yeah, because it looked like he was shooting on his way up, and now it's kind of like in between, and it's a mess. But I think Giannis, yeah, that's what the Nets I think are doing, especially without Kyrie Irving this season, unfortunately. But I think like having Patty Mills there
Oh my
is,
god.
I mean, I think it's one of the most underrated signings, especially for the price they paid. Um, great feeble player, and won a championship with the Spurs in 2014. So this he's one of the only people on that team with a championship with Kevin Durant. So
Yep.
you have to understand that really matters, especially in the crunch time when you can't make mistakes against some teams, especially in Game 7 overtime. There's no wasted possessions, and Patty Mills,
Yep.
I think, is going to be great with Harden and also Kevin Durant. You probably could play Harden and Patty Mills at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that. I also think like because they have so many guys that are like, let's say we got Bruce Brown or DeAndre Bembry, or I've liked the jumper from Javon Carter, but let's just throw him in there for like hypothetical situation. Let's say you have a match, like a lineup out there. You need those Joe Harris, Patty Mills guys out there, like those elite movement shooters. God bless Joe Harris. He is an amazing shooter. Amazing. He also cannot relocate the same way that Patty Mills can, where Patty Mills can come off like 3 screens under the basket, go the other direction, then also reverse his course and then go up to the like wing and turn around where he's fully moving his body like 360 and getting a shot in rhythm and getting that thing up. It's nuts. Like he has got, I did a video on him where I was like, he's got like Steph Curry movement patterns. He's obviously not the same level player. That's a ridiculous comparison, but he has got the same level of like being able to turn around and not even be facing the basket and get a shot up where you feel pretty good about that. That's a huge attribute for the Nets. They've never had a guy like that ever. I mean, maybe Kyrie, maybe, but he's going to be a huge asset for them. And you pair that with Joe Harris, who's like the best. If he's facing the basket, I feel 60% good that's going in.
Yeah, yeah. Especially, yeah, we definitely need him in the playoffs. And Patty Mills, yeah, he's just way more athletic than Joe Harris. Joe Harris is
Yes.
actually a bigger dude than most people think, right? He's probably like 6'6", like
Yeah,
200
6'6".
something pounds. Yeah.
He can like guard the post. Like he's like a real like he's a solid dude.
Yeah, and Patty Mills is just shiftier, faster. Could probably run a nice like 40 time, even at
Yeah,
this age. Yeah, so
33. Yeah.
he he's one of the players I'm like, all right, like Patty Mills. If we maybe like if Kyrie left and we didn't have a veteran point guard or shooting guard like that combo guard, I'll be a little bit nervous, I would be a little bit nervous. I'd be like, all right, we kind of need that second unit we need someone to guide that second unit.
Right.
And Javon Carter, even though I think he's underrated, especially from the 3-point line, I think
Yep.
the Phoenix Suns didn't utilize him correctly, or maybe they just had too
They're
many
just too
guards.
loaded.
Yeah, too many
Too many.
guards. Yeah. So with Patty Mills, and then you have Bruce Brown and Javon Carter, I think you just kind of use the little army you have to supplement for Kyrie's absence, right?
Yeah.
So what did you take away from the preseason? Was there anyone in particular you're like, you're going to be important down the stretch, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to see Javon Carter. I see him as like starter level. So actually, let me give you a hot take, right? Isn't that what podcasts are for? I think Javon Carter is going to thoroughly overtake Bruce Brown in the rotation. Like, not even, it'll be about a month. I think they've got their Bruce Brown replacement, which sucks because I like Bruce a lot. He's a really good player, but I don't know. Javon Carter's really good, man. I think he's a more disruptive defender. He can shoot, which matters, and it'll matter a lot with Kyrie out. I think he's got a real chance to start. I really do. So outside of that, I think they need ball handling help, which is weird. You think about, you look at the Nets, you say, well, it's funny, this team that went from, is there only one ball? And I'm now like, are we sure? Can we split the ball? Can we get the ball to more people? Like, is there any way we can get the ball to more people? Because my solution right now is run certain plays through the bigs where it's like, if there's a rebound that comes off long, Paul Millsap gets it. I want Paul Millsap to organize the offense. That's obviously not going to happen every time. You can have Paul Millsap taking the ball up at, age 36. So, or whatever he's at, 35, 36. He might be 37. I don't know. I should know that. But regardless, it's like, I think they need another guy that can handle and organize the offense. And if I'm the Nets and I'm looking at this year, I'm looking at the buyout market to get another guard, believe it or not, which is odd because they have, on paper, so many guards, and Cam Thomas and Javon Carter, I guess Bruce Brown, but it's like, I want somebody that I feel really good about giving the offense when James Harden is off. Because we know with these teams where it's like, you have a James Harden, you have a LeBron, I guess a cumulative offense when those guys come off the floor takes such a large pitfall in the first place when these guys are off. If you don't have a guy that can at least give you like baseline impact, that stuff really accumulates. So that's what I'd be looking at. Those are the two things I came away with. I had a bunch, but those are the two that I kind of came away with.
So what do you think is left on the bone for Millsap and LaMarcus Aldridge?
I've liked Millsap so far. I've liked Millsap since summer, probably. I like everybody else. I was like, I don't really know what to expect from this. And then I watched, weirdly enough, a bunch of his playoff film, which everybody said was, this guy looks washed. He looks done. I didn't really get that feeling. Like I felt like he knew on defense, at least he knew his rotations. And then offensively, it's like, they just look like a team that didn't have the juice really to keep up with a Phoenix team that was just genuinely better. So it's like, when you're playing a team like that, where it's just Jokic and Campazzo, who I don't even know if it's going to be part of the rotation this year. Like, Bones Highland has already taken his spot. It's like this team where it's like, there's doing way more than he should be doing at this point. Like, just way more than what he should ever do, even in the last 2 years that he should be doing. Yeah, no wonder he's gonna not like look like a spry Paul Millsap out there. You know what I mean?
Paul Millsap needs a part-time job, and he's here. That's what he needs.
He's there for 12, 15 minutes. He's gonna make like smart plays on defense. If they switch somebody on him that isn't like, for example, an Anthony Edwards, who we just saw last week. But if it's somebody that is not like an elite creator and he's guarding them, he's got quick hands. He knows where to be in terms of, if he's off the ball, he definitely knows where to be. And then offensively, he's going to make the right play. Like, he knows exactly what to do. the shots that he should be taking, the shots that he shouldn't be taking. He's gonna fit right in. Like I am still just as high on him as I have been since they signed him. And then LaMarcus, like, man, LaMarcus looked valuable last year. I got to tell you, this year he looks even more valuable because they have so many guys. This is a different team this year. I think people are going to realize that when you watch these guys, they got a little bit of grit and grind to them. Like they really do. There are guys that are going to be grinding it out for steals, making it tough for you to get a shot off early in the shot clock, which is the thing that I've noticed really in preseason is that so many of the opponent's shots are late in the shot clock because of what they're doing. And what that means a lot of times is that you're giving up things on offense. LaMarcus Aldridge, who can create his own shot in the post, but also space, is going to be huge on the other end of the floor. So I've been impressed with both those guys.
Yeah, that's something they really kind of missed in the Milwaukee. Milwaukee series, they missed a lot of things, but that was one thing that they really needed, like a stretch big, man. Oh my God, it would
Yeah.
help the spacing so much. And I think, yeah, this year is gonna be really interesting because they added a lot of pieces that are really defensive minded and disciplined. That's one thing. Paul Millsap, he's like a 4-time All-Star for a reason. I mean, he was never really the strongest or the fastest, but he's super disciplined. So he just knows what to do. He's a smart basketball player. He's lost like maybe like 2 or 3 steps, but because he's so disciplined, you can't really tell because he makes the right move all the time. It's almost like Al Horford. I'll take Al Horford for example. Like he's lost. Like you can just tell he's lost like 12 steps.
Yeah.
But Millsap, he's lost like 2 or 3 steps, but I think he still could play part-time, especially for the Brooklyn Nets. And I think he'll probably be part of that second like squad. And they'll probably roll out a combination. Even though like Benbury last year for Toronto was really good. I know a lot of people didn't see it because they were in Tampa Bay and just like the abyss, So, but Benbury was really exciting last year for them, and they're probably gonna mix a combo of like Carter, Brown, Benbury, Millsap, Clarkson, and that's a crazy squad for the second unit. That's so defensive minded. Like, how you get a score on that? It's almost.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Like you just didn't have this last year. A lot of the secondary squads were just like, hey, let's throw James Harden out there with a couple of shooters and just like hope for the best. Like now I really feel like it's good when your second unit has an identity. You know what I mean? Like you really want that group to have something where you know what you're going to get night to night. And I think you have that right now, whether Bembry or whoever is playing or not. I think there's enough here now where you have these guys that are going to be interchangeable to a degree. It's just going to be a pain in the ass, man. Like, let's say you're a backup point guard and you're playing the Brooklyn Nets. Like, this sucks. Like, now you have to deal with Javon Carter and DeAndre Bembry and just like Bruce Brown. Let's say Bruce Brown gets, we'll call it demoted to the second unit. That still is a pain in the ass. That guy, like, that's just going to be a lot to deal with. And that, it took me a second to kind of put it together because I even find myself doing this where I think we underrate how important it is to have really good perimeter defense. Because when we think of that, it's what? You rip steals from somebody. It's like the classic Michael Jordan clip where he's just ripping a steal from a guy, that's trying to isolate with the end of the game. Like it's not always like that. Sometimes it's just about really good positioning and cutting guys off. And it's really hard to recognize what good positioning and bad positioning is on the perimeter. And this year they have a lot of guys that just know exactly what to do. They know how to cut off guys on baseline. They have guys that are going to flip their feet correctly. Like that stuff just adds up and it matters. And I don't know, man. It's just, for me personally, I love watching defense. I always have. I've loved every second of the preseason. I've never said that where I can't get enough of these Nets.
Yeah. And I think that was like one of my points previously when they're like, we need to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Like this is our nemesis and this is what we need to get to the championship. Because in reality, that's what it is. In my head, it's just Milwaukee Bucks, Brooklyn Nets. Those are the two teams. Other teams are great, but I'm like, these teams are stacked. Yeah. And the Brooklyn Nets were like, you know what? We have to get these players just to throw at Giannis. Like Millsap, Blake Griffin, Aldridge, KD. Like we just need to go at him, and I think the personnel is right there. Like this is our arsenal for this year. And even without, I think, Kyrie, I think there's still some advantages you have with these guards because they are a little bit more defensive and more stout. So I think the identity changes a little bit with the detriment from Kyrie as well.
Well, not only that, like you got your guys that you want to and bother him because I mean, look, we just mentioned a second ago, like if Giannis is making jump shots, it's different. I would still pick on the handle a little bit just because he's 7 feet tall and like that's the easy pickings, right? Like even KD, who has a great handle. If there's one thing I can pick on him about, it's probably the handle, just because he's so tall. Distance wise, going to the floor, going back up to his hand, it's going to take a longer amount of time. And like I don't need to get into like the math of this, but with Giannis, that's the thing I would do. Not only I'd throw a primary guy at him, but I'd have a second guy dig down on him and like try to dislodge his dribble or just bother him. And you have all these guys in Javon Carter, Bembry, Bruce Brown, where it's like you just have these, I don't know, just an army of guys that can do that on top of your primary guys too. It's a very smartly built team. And you have to wonder to a degree, especially with the James Johnson signing, who has historically fared very well against Giannis. Like, I wonder if this organization was looking at Giannis and been like, hey, let's find the perfect group of guys, because this is a very like data inclined team.
Yeah, I mean, it's smart, honestly. You take the top link and then you break that, and then everything else falls apart, you know?
Yep.
So it's a smart move by the Nets. And yeah, if I had something to do with Giannis, like the pick, you need him to turn your back to you as a defense so you can get that support defender on his left-hand side. And just because if you're smaller, he's not gonna see you coming. So
Yeah.
his dribble is so high, like you said, it is mathematics. It just takes longer to reach to his hand, his palm, and if you have a help defender from either side,
Yeah.
if he turns his back to you, that's when you have to swoop in. You kind of have to take a gamble with Giannis as well. If not,
You
he's gonna
do.
score on you. He's gonna get 28 every game, 20, 26. So you have to limit him that he doesn't get like 40 or like 36. So that's the
Right.
challenge. He's gonna get his. But I think if you put enough people in front of him, you need to try to just like stop him at whatever capacity you can.
Yeah.
He's like a superhero. I mean, you saw his knee like go the opposite way, and everyone's like, it's over. And he came back, and then he just like dropped. He just destroyed the Phoenix Suns. And I was like, this is. I've There's been some times when I've been wowed by like an athlete. I was like, dude, this guy, his leg just bent the other way. He came back and just destroyed the Phoenix Suns. No answer for him.
I thought about that like throughout game 6 of that series. And like I really try to like remain as impartial as I can when I'm watching this, because it's just like, what, I don't know, like it is what it is. I watch a bunch of basketball. I don't really have a team or anything, but I was like, this is insane. Like if I allow me to like settle into just being a general basketball fan, put up like 50, what did he put up in the final game? Like 50, 10, and 12 or something.
He almost had like a triple double. It was crazy. And he hit like, how many free throws did he hit?
17 and 19 free throws.
It's just,
it's the craziest thing ever. And mind you, his knee went the other way 2 weeks ago, like maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And he went out there and played on it after that. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like he is, yeah, he's got it. I mean, he's got it. In the same way that KD, you watch him, even in preseason, there's certain shots that he hits where you're like, this is an all-time player. What I'm watching right now, I need to remember this and like, just like screw this into my brain, because I'm never going to see this again, where there is somebody that is so unbothered by defense. It doesn't matter how good it is. I thought Jaden McDaniels did a great job against him in the game against the Wolves. Did not matter. Same way with Giannis, where it's like, it's not even like a defender isn't really going to matter. It's just the sport in general doesn't matter. This guy is impervious to everything. Like his knee bends backward, he's fine. He's going to be out there. Like it's an amazing matchup. Bucks Nets. I'm so ready for it, and I'm excited. That's the first game of the year. Like it's going to be quite the highlight to kick the year off.
I mean, that series was just watching like a boxing fight. It was just Fury versus Wilder 2 or 3. It was just
however many we're at. We've had like 9 of those.
I think 3. But I mean, it was amazing because as a basketball player, I used to play a lot, and now I'm
Yeah.
older. But
You're a podcaster now. You've
yeah,
graduated.
I do a lot of things now, but I don't play sports anymore. But to see KD just play that many, like the whole game, he didn't come out at all, just
Yeah.
to play against a team like Milwaukee Bucks full time and overtime. I was like, I don't know how he did that, man. Coming off like an Achilles injury, where I think people don't talk about this a lot, but a lot of people wrote him off after that injury, and I think we don't talk about it a lot because I think it's just kind of looked over. But a lot of people are like,
Yeah.
oh, he's not gonna come back the same. No one comes back the same from this injury. Like no one's ever done this, and he comes back, and honestly, he's a good candidate for MVP this year, like betting wise.
And I mean, yeah, like I think if he stays healthy and he plays a lot of games, which by the way, he's gonna have to now. I mean, it's they're down a star. They're not only they're down a star, they're down what $35 million of talent. I hate looking at basketball players that way, but like realistically, they are down a massive slot in terms of where their money's gone this year. I think he's probably going to have to play quite a bit. They're going to load manage their guys because of course they are. We know Harden is probably not going to load manage that.
Yeah, the 35. It's $35 in basketball is
It
a
might be
lot.
more than that. I could be wrong about that.
Oh, with
But
the incentives and stuff, yeah, it's a lot more. But yeah, I think. What do you think like the projection is for the Brooklyn Nets win wise? What do you think? Like 50, 49, 50? Because even if you like try to load manage, you can't really sometimes reach 60. So
I think they're going to reach like high 50s, like close to 60. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just too high on them, given everything that's happened. But they just feel like a team that's going to come out and they're really deep, and I think that really matters, like really matters in the regular season. And B, I don't know. Like I just feel like there's going to be this whole thing that went through training camp and this thing with Kyrie, and maybe that's the wrong feeling, but it's going to be something they can rally around. I think they're high 50s, 60s. I just, it's hard for me to not look at it that way. How many wins is Kyrie worth?
like maybe 5.
5, right? So I had them at 65-ish with him. So I think I have to be somewhere around 58 to 60, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, the whole situation. You're probably sick of it. You probably wake up and you probably look at the phone, and you're probably like, no, again,
Honestly,
again,
nah,
again.
okay. I gotta tell you right now that the Instagram live, I was so mad, man. I was like, dude, come on. Like, I don't want to do this at 11 p.m. Like, I've done this for 2 weeks. I know what this is going to turn into. And I have to sit here and like sit through these quotes. I'm like, I just want to break. I'm so good off doing this for another day. Like, I'm so tired of this, man. I don't care. Just give me the roster and let's talk about who's on the damn court. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's hard. It must be really hard as a teammate, I think, because if I had a teammate like that,
yeah.
I mean, it's almost like you have a great camaraderie with your teammate, and you understand them and you agree with them. But sometimes because you're answering questions for them in a way,
Yeah.
and the Nets PR is probably like pulling their hair every day, like,
Oh, yeah.
control quality, like the control, like we got to control the situation. And I'm pretty sure Sean Marks, you know, he's a really calculated GM, and I really
Mhm.
love Sean Marks from San Antonio, and I always like talk really highly about Sean Marks, and he could have gone the other round, just stayed in San Antonio Spurs. He was really highly touted over there, so he came
Yeah.
over here with a kind of like a vision, and he's really put his vision to work, and he just got put into a situation where it was like his back was against the wall, and I think they came out and said like, well, it was only I and Joseph to made that decision.
Yeah,
Like,
Joe Tsai.
yeah, it's like they only made that decision. And in reality, you kind of suspect that it wasn't just both of them, that they were just like, look, we need to
Yeah.
like this is a toxic relationship. We just need to break up for a little bit. Maybe we'll get back together down the road, but right
That's a good
now
way to put it.
it's a toxic relationship. I need to go to California. I need to like relax, and
Right.
maybe we'll come back. We'll come back to it like maybe after the All-Star game. Because I think there's a lot of people that are wary of. It's weird because people that are vaccinated are talking about vaccinations, and like everyone's been vaccinated. To play basketball, you have to be vaccinated when you're
Yeah.
in middle school, college, whatever. So it's kind of weird when people are vaccinated talking about vaccinations, about them being detrimental and stuff like that. So the Kyrie situation, I was like, this is it was predictable. It was really
It was.
predictable. It was super
Yeah.
predictable, and I felt bad for the teammates that have to kind of just be like, this, I'm fine, this is good,
Yeah. It's
like,
like,
and the coach too, Steve Nash. Honestly,
dude,
I
Steve
crit
Nash had to answer a lot of
I
stuff.
I crit I criticize Steve Nash sometimes because of his decision making within games, sometimes like timeouts and stuff and timing, but I'll never
We're
question.
like playing his guys like 45 minutes on
Oh yeah,
nights that don't matter.
and destroying their legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, why can't Joe Harris shoot in the playoffs? Because you juiced him. You juiced
Yeah.
him. You
Yeah.
took you
Hey,
you took
that's
that
a bar
lemon.
right there.
You took that lemon and you just squeezed the until like there was no rind left, dude. It was
That's
crazy.
a
So
bar right there.
so so I understand that. At the same time, I'll never criticize him how he takes questions and how he is so articulate
Yeah.
with reporters. Like he just knows his way around people. I think he's socially really smart. So
Yes.
the questions he'll like he'll gaslight you and you won't even know it. I'm like, oh, what did he say? Oh yeah, he's fine with it. Like,
Yep.
but he's been exceptional on that part with
With players too. From the little, I mean, I'm not obviously like in the locker room, but like in to the level of like being on the team. But yeah, no, that's his thing. He's really good at relating to people, like really, really good. And in that way, it makes a lot of sense for him to coach this team because it's like, dude, you got a bunch of guys that have been playing for like 10 years. Like they don't need you to be like, hey, can you guys do sprints? And let's get in. Like they get it. They know what they need to do. Ideally be in good shape or pretty good shape. And they're gonna do what they do. Like everybody knows what they do on this team. Like, so I don't know. I mean, he's great. I mean, in that way, he's really great. But I feel bad, man. Like he had to, like again, in the absence last year, I was with it. I was totally with it for Kyrie. Like, if you got something going on and it was a hard time at that point, I get it. But I do feel bad to a degree where it's like, man, we're doing this like every 8 months. The players got to answer this and the coach got to answer this. It's just like, it's tricky, man.
yeah, especially the Instagram. I remember when they just mentioned like, oh, have you seen the Instagram video, like,
of him in
and he was
at the
and he was
strip
just
club
like, yeah, no, yeah, and he was
or
just
the
like,
birthday party, whatever it was.
yeah, and but he just answered it so funny. Even the IG live, he was just like, yeah, I saw it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's it. Like, I'm done talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
and I think they're all over it and just like, all right, we'll figure this out later, but we need to concentrate on the season because that's really what's important right now. And but yeah, there's a question I needed to ask you about Cam
Yeah.
Thomas. Were you surprised
Let's go.
how NBA ready he was, that he's just like doing step back game winner jumpers in summer league and coming back in preseason and playing well?
Well, I don't watch a lot of college, so yes, in that way, like I just sort of like see these guys when they're on the team. So yeah, I mean, I'm surprised in a way in terms of like the space generation that he's got and his ability to take contact. Actually, if I can take anything, it's probably the ability to take contact. Um, his ability to like know how to run into a defender, but not run over the defender, bounce off it and sell the contact to a degree is really, really impressive. And his body for like a 19-year-old player, he's got absolute tree trunks for legs, which I'm pretty sure he's like increased his leg strength since he got to Brooklyn. Like even from summer league to watching him in preseason, I'm like, this guy looks bigger. Maybe I'm wrong, but he just looks bigger.
He looks
And
bigger.
he does.
Yeah, he looks bigger.
He's got NBA shoulders. And you see all that and you're like, oh, well, if this guy can even shoot like, let's say he doesn't shoot it like, I don't know what he shot in summer league, but let's say he doesn't shoot it like 40% or whatever he was at. Even if he shoots like 36% and draws contact the way he does and is as physically as imposing as he can be, it's a damn good player. Like there's no way he's not going to be an NBA player. There's no way. In my eyes, there is a 5% chance he is an NBA player.
Yeah,
It was
no, I
great.
mean, he's honestly, I had him in the lottery in the draft, and I
Yeah.
was really surprised that he slipped all the way. I was glad, honestly. I either had
Yeah.
him or Bones Highland being chosen by the Nets, and I was like, they got Cam Thomas, and he slipped out of the. I had him like 9. I
I
had
like him more
Bry-
than Bones even. I don't think Bones can get to the rim the same way Cam can.
No, Cam is honestly he has good size for him. You don't think he's that size? I think he's like 6'6".
Yeah, I mean, he's
Yeah.
like he's anywhere. I mean, he's got like, I don't know if he's like Devin Booker size, but he's in the ballpark. Like he might be like Brad Beal size, like for example.
He's also got good elevation on his shot, and it's almost like a good example of a shot at the highest apex instead of like
Yes.
Westbrook who's coming down. He's
Yep.
got a great elevation shot, and he's really impressive. Even LSU, he's really impressive. I think he slipped because he supposedly was too arrogant during interviews,
Yeah.
and like that. I think it's just BS because his background comes from like military, so he's a little bit more like focused and concentrated on his goal and
I
stuff
didn't know
like that.
that.
So I think his mom is I think military. So
Oh, that's so interesting. That makes
yeah,
a
so
ton of sense, man.
he just like very composed, and at LSU he was he scored like 23 a game against
Yeah.
competition, not like teams that were in like D3 or anything, like really good competition. And his free throw rate was like 88%. So, that's going to translate a little bit. And
Yeah.
his three pointer was a little bit maybe like 32-ish. But I think that's because he had a heavy load on his shoulders at LSU. And he probably took some of the shots that he wasn't supposed to be taking. And in NBA, that translates because, if you have James Harden who's putting in the right corner, right position to shoot just a follow through 3-pointer, then it's gonna go up. He's probably gonna be like a 36, 37 3-point shooter, and that's like at the minimum, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty, especially early in his career where he's playing next to like other really good players. Like he's just going to be attacking second side essentially, ideally, unless they like put him in lineups or he's running the whole show. I don't love that idea early. Um, yeah, I don't. We do this every year with scouting, where we get into these like, I don't want to just like take a dump on scouts, but like to a degree like I get I maybe this is just something as somebody who's not in the scouting industry where I don't realize how much the personality stuff matters. But we get a guy every year where it's like, well, we're not really sure about his background, or maybe he's too arrogant. I'm like, just look at how good he is. Like, what are we doing here to a degree? And maybe this is just like you look at a guy where it's like we're looking at Emmanuel Mudiay or somebody that I don't know what that's the first name that came to mind, where it's like this guy's really talented, but and then he doesn't turn out to be good because of whatever those personality things were, or whatever, just like a general want to be great, or I don't know. I don't know really what the terminology would be behind that, but regardless, like I don't know how that works. I'm not in scouting, but I feel like we get these guys every year where it's like this guy is. He just seems like he's gonna be good. Like he's the leading freshman. Like he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think it's people overthink the draft. I think they
Yeah,
overthink. They see it and they're
it's
like,
too long. That's my
well,
theory. You get 12 months to like look at this, and or more than that, really. You're looking at these guys for like 4 or 5 years, and sometimes you just don't need that much time all the time.
yeah, and I think honestly for the Nets, because they're always usually in the back end of the draft, in the 20s. I don't mind bad teams overthinking because they're always going to overthink, and that they pick. I wouldn't say gold, but previous years, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, Nick Claxton, like those are late round picks, and they've
Yeah,
worked out. So, Nets have a good eye for talent for sure, especially at that like value chart. Okay, Cam Thomas at 27, like there's no way we're not choosing Cam Thomas. He scored 23 points at LSU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where was Jarrett picked? Jarrett was 20, was he
He's around
19th?
I think he was like 24, I think, or somewhere
That's
around there.
insane. He was at the same, was he at the same spot that Rudy Gobert was? I remember looking at it. I looked at his draft slot and it was like a bunch of guys that just like never played another NBA game basically, or they played like 1 or 2 years left after that. So it's like,
he was picked 22nd.
it's insane.
Yeah. I think it was also a quote unquote character issue because they didn't think he was passionate enough of basketball and like he focused too much on computers or whatever.
It's so
crazy.
dumb. I'm
Yeah,
like,
man.
who cares? Like, it's this like, I don't know, this like, you have to be like a macho, like, oh yeah, I love basketball, it's all I want to do, but also like I can't be the own guy, like I gotta be for my team. It's like, this is so like ridiculous. Like, it's a workplace. There are people with different personalities. Like, you've never gone to a job where people have different ways of doing things, and guess what? The final product turns out perfectly fine. You've never been in a workplace like that.
Yeah, I call it ooga strength.
Yeah.
I call it ooga mentality because it's almost like caveman, you know? No, man, like smart people are good athletes too. That's the thing. It's like don't just because someone likes to read doesn't mean like, well, you can't play point guard. Like what are we talking about?
It's so ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, we get this every year. A guy, unless it's like a medical reason, which I get. Even then, it's like certain guys like Michael Porter Jr. just made whatever he made. He's like a $200 million player.
$200 million, yeah, 200 million.
I mean, that's a rare example, but we'll see where it turns out. But I mean, it's like if the things are like personality wise, like you should have enough confidence in your organization that you can figure that out. Or if it's like we're not sure if Jared Allen likes to play basketball enough, let's create an environment where he wants to show up to work every day. And it's like, he's very comfortable where he is. And, you know, like let's build the competitiveness out of him, essentially. It shouldn't be that hard. Have confidence in your workplace.
is trust your eyes. I think that's what scouts should do.
Yeah.
Trust your eyes. And if a guy splits a double team, goes to the paint, bounces off a defender and banks it in, chances are that he's going to work out in the NBA. Chances are, you know.
Yeah. Or if it's like Jared Allen or whoever, Nicholas Clarkson, where it's like, wow, this guy is just a ridiculous shot blocker where he can be on the weak side, like focused on the guy in the dunker spot or even a guy in the corner, and out of the corner of his eye, he'll see somebody get into the rim and he'll like reject it with his opposite hand. Oh, wait, that guy's actually gonna be really useful. We could use guys that do that. Like, that's really important for a league that wants to take away threes and layups, essentially.
Jared Allen's tracking is impeccable.
Insane.
Insane. Like he'll see a trajectory of a ball. He's like, this shit's gone.
Yep.
I'm tossing this into the bench, you know?
Yep.
So, and he's done it over and over. I think it's just an overthinking. Luckily, Cam Thomas is on the Nets now. So unfortunately, I am running out of time.
That's all right.
But we'll definitely chat another time, man. It's been great talking about the Brooklyn Nets and their upcoming season. Really excited for Tuesday. Cool, Matt. Thank you for everything, man.
Yo, bro. Enjoy your night. Enjoy the house party. And tell your girl congrats. It's what's up, man.
Thank you, dude. Have a good night, man.
You too, brother.